Hello and welcome to another episode of Monday BJJ with me, your host, Brian. So right off the bat here, I just kind of jumped on this guy and got a paper cutter choke started on him and locked it up really tight, just kind of right from the beginning. And it just sort of took hold and I kind of let it go. And he did a lot of stuff to fight it off and whatnot. And I think it was just a matter of having the choke be just tight enough for long enough that it got him. And I guess that's one of the things that I'd like to think more about when I do rolling. I'd like to hit solid moves right when I go to hit them. I don't want to just do a poor maneuver and then readjust until I finally get it right. And I think part of that thought process is a weakness for me because it prevents me from being quite as good against people like this current guy that I'm rolling against, where he's really good at scrambling. And so when you find yourself at an in-between position, sometimes you won't move fast enough to avoid him taking your back from somewhere. But it also has the advantage of, it's very efficient movement-wise, I guess. And I get triangled a lot in this video, so if anybody wants to put a triangle count in the comments, feel free. I think there's even one triangle that I get from the top, which is kind of hilarious. Yeah, I don't like the idea of like hitting a bad move and then just staying with it and trying to kind of readjust until it gets good. But there's something to be said for it, I guess. Like, you just kind of hang on. And, eventually if you're draining enough energy from your opponent, it works out in your favor. So, it can be a decent enough strategy. I don't, ideally you want to be doing good movements all the time. But, sometimes I move poorly, at least. So that's something I'm trying to think about more, is kind of how I'm moving. And I think this is maybe the top triangle here. Yeah, this guy is really, really flexible, and like he floats really lightly on top of you. So he gets in some interesting situations in our next roll that we get into. This roll, however, this guy, I would say, rolls the way that I would like to roll. Like, he doesn't move like a whole lot or like real crazily, but when he moves, it's definitely like decisive and like he's hitting the move and he's going to do it. So I find that really, really fun to roll against because, like I said, it's the style that I kind of want to emulate. And here my arm gets trapped and I can't underhook to kind of stop him from moving around and doing what he wants to do. And so he gets on top of me and he's kind of, taking me, and he does this really good choke here. And like it was so tight from like about the moment he put it on, and then he really stretched it out there at the end and got me with it. And then here he's, I guess, kind of practicing lasso or De La Hiva, and I try to like turn into him and grab his head, but he's still got my leg trapped, and it's kind of unclear who's gonna get the motion here, but his legs pushing against my arm is still pretty effective. And then I turn here and just smash my face into his elbow, and that was a lot of fun. I felt that the next day. And so from there, he kind of gets some side control on me, and he does this weird thing where he's sticking his leg in, and I'm kind of thinking maybe I grab it and try to turn this into like a single leg, and then he really clamps down on my head, and then he uses that to transition back into side control, and I'm not feeling super great. And I was able to turn there and avoid the arm bar there, but somehow he just like slides himself over my body here with the weirdest transition from one side to the other I've seen, but it was really effective. And then he's able to lock up my other arm here, I think, and he hits me with a Kimura. I at least go to turtle first, and then I turn back into him, and then that's when he hits the Kimura. And so here we are. He's going into guard again, and I'm trying to think. I want to keep his leg out, so I put my knees on my elbows, and then that allows me to get both my arms underneath him and try to do this double sweep. And then he locks up the triangle, and I think I should have turned the other way, because I think turning the way I turned probably made the triangle tighter. So if you're going to try to pressure pass out of a triangle, you need to make sure you're turning the right way. And then there he does a cool thing where he goes to do that hip bump sweep one way, and then I kind of brace against it, and so he just turns and does it the other direction and throws me. It was pretty cool. So here I'm rolling against my instructor, and I made a joke about fixing my gi before the round started, and so he immediately rips my gi out and starts doing some fun lapel stuff against me. And from there, it's just a horrible nightmare as he tries to get this Kimura on me, and eventually turns it into an armbar and finishes me. So from there we do this weird trip, and I kind of try to fight my way inside to get around, and I get his head and arm, and I start trying to crank up on him, but he's able to still get a hold of me, and he winds up pulling his head out by moving his hips back, which was really cool. And then he just winds up taking my back. So that was, not one of my best moves, but so then I get out and turn into it to get at least somewhat out of the choke, and at least get him kind of off my back. So go from back to side control is not great, but it's better than having him on your back. So. And then he gets on top of me and does some neon belly pressure, and pretty sure he finishes me at some point, but the footage wasn't that good because of these other guys that are in front of us. So like and subscribe for more foreground action. We do another weird fall, and the rest of the round was pretty uneventful. So you'll see I'm doing a lot more movement and pulling and stuff in my standing game. I'm trying to be more active in how I do things. So we get into a guard scenario, and nothing much happens. We try to roll a couple times, but nothing really goes anywhere. And I think eventually he locks down either a Americana or a Kimura or something on my arm. I think it's Americana, and he gets me pretty good with it. So we go from there to another guard, and I passed this time, but similar to the other times that I've passed, occasionally someone will still hold on to my sleeve, and so I wound up pretty much passing, but when I get around, he does this incredible hip bump thing from, I think he's a pretty good wrestler, and he pretty much just throws me off. So here it is. Yeah. And I don't remember if we finished that or not, but anyways, we went into another roll with some more guard, and I think I do the double underpass again. It's kind of my go-to pass if I can get it. But he locks up on my head, I think. Yeah. And so I have a lot of trouble, and he's doing a good job of keeping his legs in and kind of preventing me from doing the pass. And so I get around one, and then he locks up on my head, and then we kind of go back. And now here I've got double butterfly hooks, and I've never really played much butterfly hooks at all, much less double. And so you see me try to sweep there and nothing. I should have trapped one of his legs, and instead I just kind of get back to a little bit of a half guard, but it's not even quite half guard. And so here you'll see me pull out a lapel, and then I kind of feed it back into my other hand, and I basically hold on to this lapel for the rest of the match. And this is more of that Bulldog mentality, like I was saying, where like I get this lapel and I can feel that it's preventing him from moving quite as freely as I want to, but maybe it's not actually executing the rest of my game plan. It's not really doing anything for me, but I'm still holding on to it because I know if I let it go, things will probably get worse, but I also don't know what I'm doing with it. So it's kind of that question of, maybe like I said last time, fail early, fail often. Maybe it's better just to let go of it and see, oh, this is where it went wrong. And then maybe that would let me know how I should really use it in the future. I don't know if that's actually the right lesson to take away from it or not. So if anybody has any thoughts on that or advice, feel free to drop it in the comments and we can all learn from it together. Eventually, I think the round ended or he finished me with a choke, but either way, it was a pretty tough match. So here I am back with this guy, and you'll see what I mean about him being really light on his feet. And I think, we'd done several rounds by this time, and so I just kind of roll him over, and he's still moving underneath me, though, and like you can see him making this sort of positioning, and he kind of flips up, and I try to throw him back down, but he just kind of winds up pulling himself onto my back because he's, like I said, he's so light, and he's pretty tall, really. So I think that helps a little bit too. And but he's just pretty darn good. And so he locks up on my back and starts choking, and I'm not really able to turn or move much, and he gets the full body lock on me, or body triangle, I guess, there, and that was really uncomfortable. And so I think I wound up just giving him the full choke on me because I was pretty much ready to be done with that. So we moved into another position, and he's kind of doing some lasso guard or De La Hiva or something, and I'm trying to get clear of his leg, but I can't, and he folds me over, and then he gets a sort of a leg lock position on me, and I don't really know anything about leg locks, so I just kind of let him have it and tapped and went on from there. So, getting more familiar with the leg lock position, even though it's not something I really know about or do. So from there, we transition into another probably guard pull into a sweep, and he's, working me over, and we kind of just move back and forth between like north-south and side control. So whenever he goes for a mount transition, I'm trying to throw him off in some way. And this is something I haven't encountered too much, and maybe I will in the future, but when somebody sticks their leg a lot further in front like that on a mount, sometimes I try to grab it like this and do a single leg, and it kind of worked out in this situation, but you've seen other places in this video where it didn't work out for me. So I hope getting to watch this helped you see some of the things I'm trying to think about while I'm working on my game, and I hope they helped you think about your jiu-jitsu game as well. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.